Look at these three. Look at these. Look at two assholes right now. What's going on, guys?
I just put my dick away. You guys just missed it.
What's going
Thanks for
on?
playing the wrong song, by the way.
It's like a 3-minute and 20-second song. I'm not playing the whole fucking thing. So
Right, and I was thanking you for playing the wrong one.
I don't know. But anyway.
That's okay. We'll go with the derailed theme for tonight. Works for me. How's it going, everybody? This is Wrestling Memories, episode 21. We're doing part 3 of the Monday Night Wars, Embracing Attitude. Tonight, of course, we've got JP Baker. We just heard from you. How are you guys doing over there? You and Heather?
We're doing good. Doing good.
We've also...
Oh, doing good.
Damn it, you can't say anything else. No. What else did you have? All right, whatever. We also have Trekopedia. What's going on?
Not much. How's everyone doing tonight?
Doing good. Also, we have Foulmouth Mike Bobbitt.
Yo, 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 yo. My
And-
girlfriend down the stairs.
Jeez, already. Here we go. And last but not least, Johnny Ray Sinister.
What's up, everybody?
Anyone getting put in timeout tonight?
Who's gonna get put in timeout? I'm back, I'm here, and I'm itching to go. Let's get this fucking party started. No, I'm just kidding.
What's the over-under on timeouts tonight?
Let's see. I'm gonna predict 3 timeouts tonight.
Uh-oh. Look out, Cody. Anus. Anyways, as we discussed last week, last week was the NWO episode, and as we discussed, the NWO took WCW well into the lead of the ratings. Vince was forced to step up his game.
Let's see. I'm gonna predict 3 timeouts tonight.
So he's going to predict 3 timeouts again. Sorry.
You need to remember to put that on mute.
I don't know why she's yelling at me. But anyway, go ahead.
Derailed. All right.
Nice going, guys.
Shut up. Fucking twit.
The growing success of WCW and WWE losing audience and financial budgets, they were forced to use young and upcoming talents to thrust into the spotlight, some of which panned out, which we'll get into a little later on. Bischoff wasn't afraid of WWF. He wasn't afraid of them. He mentioned that he didn't think there was anything they could do that could top what WCW was doing. And in comes at about that time, the little guy you guys might remember, Stone Cold Steve Austin. Does that sound familiar to you guys?
Yo.
Just a little bit.
So I don't remember, was
like
that the
a problem.
bald guy or was that the short guy?
The one that always fucking did this shit.
I'm imagining you're giving the bird. I'll see in about 10 seconds.
Yeah.
Well, so Stone Cold was born. WWE started their own version of reality-based television to combat WCW's form of reality-based television. And one of the early and probably more notable things early on was the Pillman's Got a Gun segment. And they covered this a bit on the show. Pillman's ankle had been smashed with, how they stick it in the steel chair and stomp on it. And it put him at home for a couple weeks. And Austin said that if he's going to be at home, Austin's going to be there too. Austin breaks in, a gun comes out, causes a bunch of shit. So my first question for you guys is, what were your thoughts? Did you like it? Did you not like it? Was it good? Was it bad? At that point, were your thoughts, is this good for the company, or are they just going to plummet even further? I'm going to start with Trekopedia on this.
So I got known for my junior high orientation, and I flipped the TV on, barely getting to see the end of Raw, and I saw it, I'm like, what the hell? And I didn't like it at first. Now I like it. It's like, holy crap. It's like to hear all the crap that went on backstage when that happened. Like, USA flipped their shit.
Mm-hmm. What was your thoughts though on it?
I didn't know what was going on. I rewatched it recently. I thought it was great how they did it. I like how he's like beating up those two guys in the front yard first, and then he came in. But it was like
in the little kiddie pool.
The first time I saw it, yeah, we tossed together the kiddie pool. And then the first time I really saw it, I didn't like it. Nowadays, I think it's really cool how they did it, and I guess the truck wasn't supposed to go out actually.
Well, the feed?
The feed wasn't supposed to go out actually. That was an accident that just happened because the power went out or something.
Well, that was perfect timing if that's the case. I always thought it was perfectly timed and planned to allow them to throw a couple gunshots off air and get people to stick around, tune into the next segment. I didn't realize that. Did any of you guys on the call hear about that?
Yeah, they said something about it. I think they said something about it on the show. Or on the episode.
Well, yeah, but that could be kayfabe.
No, that was legit. The power, the feed got cut or a wire was pulled or something because they weren't expecting. I don't think they were expecting the gun to actually be pulled. So people were kind of freaking a little bit because they didn't know what to do. Because they didn't want, just in case, because with the whole fucking Brandon Lee thing, how you know what I'm talking about. But anyway,
right?
Yeah, I mean, when it went off, I'm like, oh, USA just cut fucking WWF. We're done. That's what I thought. That was what I legit thought. This shit just got too fucking real. I knew it was a work. Again, we had this discussion last week. I was old enough at that time to understand that this shit is scripted, so to speak, where it's a story. But maybe they went a little too far and USA was like, yeah, we ain't doing this. And cut their feed. And then they came back on like a few minutes later. Or a few seconds later. That's what
So what were your... So you shared that you thought they were done. Did you think it was? Did you enjoy it? Do you feel like it was at that point? Did you feel like it was a good thing for them?
Whatever.
Despite them, sorry.
No, it's all right. Whatever they did, it captured my attention. I was like, holy shit! They're actually gonna do this story. Something that has never ever been done in a wrestling show. They're going to do their own invasion angle, so to speak. I loved it. It told the story of Stone Cold's a fucking piece of trash. He's a prick. Brian Pillman is this off the fucking rocker crazy dude. It was perfect. I enjoyed it. And like you said, when the feed got cut, was perfect. Perfect timing.
Right, whether it was on purpose or not.
Right.
It worked.
Yep.
All right, Bobbitt. I imagine you watched the show, right?
Yeah.
Okay. I thought so, yeah.
Yeah, like, my mom and dad was watching it with me at the time, and, we were just enjoying the show, and all of a sudden, you see the feed go off. It was like, is this real? Like, what the fuck? Did he shoot him? And John
Treadway, if I remember right, it was in the summer of '96.
And my parents was like, Michael, go ahead and go to bed for just in case if something violent happened. So that's what I did, and I had no idea like that was completely scripted because I was like, holy shit! And I remember like going to school and because it snowed a lot that winter, so we was going to school during the summer to make up for the lost days. And that was all we talked about. Was like, holy shit, was that actually real? Like that was the entire topic that day I was at school.
Yeah, I can attest to that too. I remember the conversations, and that was really what turned the ratings around. I think I mentioned that a minute ago, but a lot of people started tuning in after that. Johnny Ray, we haven't heard from you yet.
I think that was probably legitimately one of my very first like what the fuck moments, because at the time the camera going off again. I'm reiterating what everybody else has said here, but it was perfect timing. I think it was, but did I think it was good? I think I was actually more like, holy crap, what happened to Stone Cold? What happened? Like, this is nuts! Like, and there for a while, I thought, like, is this like, I thought, I couldn't tell if it was real or not at the time. I mean, naturally, later on, it was, it was a work, but I can't say that it was bad for, it was a bad thing. I mean, because look how many people it got to watching.
Right. I felt there was some sense of reality to that, and I think that obviously that's what they were going for, because I was primarily a WWE watcher, and I was used to the cookie cutter storybook cartoon kind of things, and this was one of the very first attitude in your face kind of things that they had done, and it kind of came out of the blue. No one could have really seen that coming. So, do I think it was good? Or at the time, did I think it was good? I did, but I was concerned for a little bit about if... I actually thought at one point that maybe they had said, let's stop being fake and let's actually do things for real. Somehow I'd convinced myself that. And I think that might have been where my mind was at the time.
Yeah, I can understand.
There were obviously mixed reactions from what was not called at the time, but what we know as the WWE, WWF universe. And they actually did an episode of Livewire where Vince McMahon took calls and just took it like a man. And he did. He got mixed reviews. He had one caller call in and say that if they were to do a segment like that again, he would never watch WCW again. Right. I'm like, I wonder if that was one of us.
Right.
My dad didn't give a shit, so.
Excuse me. I'm sorry?
My dad didn't give a shit, so.
Let's see. And, there were obviously some people that were saying they were convinced of their kids or concerned about their kids watching it. Mm-hmm. And, didn't want their kids watching it anymore, but the ratings kept going up, so they just kind of ignored that.
That's because the demographic that it's supposed to hit, it hit. The 18 to 34 demographic.
Right.
That's where it hit. That's where wrestling should be.
Yeah.
I don't care what anybody fucking says. You can say whatever the fuck you want. But the 18 to 34 demographic is where wrestling should be at. It is violent.
And as far as advertisers look at it and the money they spend,
yeah,
those are the people that spend the most money.
Yeah, exactly.
So
those are the people that spend the money. If you don't want your kids to fucking watch it, then don't let them watch it. But the 18 to 34 the 18 to 34 demographic is where it is supposed to be. Even today. That's just me.
If you were to, there's a reason. If you go to the website tvbythenumbers.com and you look at ratings for different shows, they have the rating, the share, and the rating for 18 to 34. Mm-hmm. And you know why that is? Because that is a very important number. It may not be the number that gets released and everyone talks about, but that's the number the advertisers look at.
Because those are the numbers that are going to make them the money to go out and buy their merchandise.
Right.
But that's why the numbers kept going up and up and up and up.
The 2 to 17 crowd does have a big influence on it in some ways. But if you're on the Disney Channel, if you're on Nickelodeon, mm-hmm. you want the 2 to 17 numbers. Because those are the ones that are saying, Mommy, Daddy, I want this.
Mm-hmm.
But 18 to 34 are the ones that are going to spend the most because they don't have to be told no by their mommies and
There
daddies.
you go.
Which is why, and I know, which is why, and I know it's a little off topic, but it's why the ruthless aggression era was so successful.
Mm-hmm.
Is because it was almost a perfect mix of, you had something for the 18 to 34s, and you had something for the 2 to 17s.
Yep.
But what got it over was that 18 to 34 demographic.
Yep. Yep.
Right.
I just
Many
thought
characters-
I'd hit on that. I just thought I'd hit on that. That's why that number. Why WWE? Why the wrestling numbers went up at that time.
After the Brian Pillman's Got a Gun segment, many WWF superstars began showing their own aggressive attitudes, and I believe at the request of Backstage in a lot of cases.
Mm-hmm.
And you started seeing Shawn Michaels get a lot more edgy. Bret Hart smacking Vince McMahon around at the commentator's booth, telling him to straighten his shit up, and
Well, that was more of a
everyone.
celebration. That was not kayfabe. That was
That was
actual. That was Bret Hart actually being pissed off with Vince McMahon.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Okay, so maybe that was, but that's an example of things that were happening around that
Right.
time, whether they were intentional or not, or pre-planned or not.
Mhm.
They were happening, which obviously increased the quality of the product, especially in that time period. There was no more good guys versus bad guys. I believe it was The Miz that said that there was a gray area.
Yep.
that you didn't know if they were supposed to be good or bad, and you got to pick your side. I knew people that were, fans of the corporation. I knew people. One of my, you guys have talked to him before, Ben. He was a big Triple H fan, and the meaner he was, the more he liked him. And I'm sure Anthony's going to attest that in the chat here in about 5 seconds. But they also had the quote, "Raw is the cure for the common show." And this was along with that Attitude Era, the part where Vince was announcing basically that they had entered that game. By January 1998 is when the numbers started to shift in the favor of WWE, and it had taken some time. I believe it was a year to a year and a half before they actually started to see the return in the results. It was finally starting to show for them. And they also started concentrating on sexuality, something that WCW had not done to this point. There were characters like Val Venus, Mark Henry being sexual chocolate. They highlighted The Godfather for a minute, and the Ho Train and things like that. And there were many others. Do you guys remember any others from? And I'm not going to pick any one person. Just come out and say it.
You
But
also had Sonny.
were there any other male? I'm sorry.
No, not
I'll
really.
get to the females in a minute. Yeah, were there any other males? I was trying to think of that while I was watching.
Actually,
Choppy,
Goldust.
choppy.
Or more racy and edgy characters. We had Goldust. I mean, that was his debut.
Did you
Well,
say
that's
Val
true.
Venus?
Yes, he did.
Val
He said
Venus.
other than Val Venus.
Other than Val Venus? Yeah, I mean, she hit it on the head. The only other really racy one, and it was more of a... How do
Eccentric.
He was an eccentric. He wasn't homosexual to say. He was an eccentric who played the character of... He was getting in people's heads, but he was using sexuality to get in that person's head. That's the way Goldust was.
Right. He was a cerebral assassin before the cerebral assassin was the
Exactly.
cerebral assassin.
Correct.
And as Heather alluded to, this also included the women, and Sonny was the first one to really enter that game. There were also people like Sable, Miss Kitty, Mae Young. No, I'm kidding, but not kidding. But and that they brought in the bikini contest, the puppies, the bra and panties matches.
Yep.
You had many different things going on. Mae Young and Mark Henry, Goldust and Luna with their, ball gag makeout session. And WCW was watching all of this, and they brought in the Nitro Girls, and I never got into that. I didn't understand. I'm like, okay, now we got fucking cheerleaders. What is this doing?
Nobody got into the Nitro Girls. They would sit there, oh, something shiny, and then 2 seconds later, okay, let's go get popcorn.
Well, I said, when they started talking about that during the show, I'm like, yeah, and that lasted for like 2 months. Because they'd make these really... What annoyed the fucking shit out of me about the Nitro Girls when they were dancing, they make really annoying faces. Like the whole fish face thing. I just fucking wanted to punch him in the face. It was annoying.
The only thing they got out of the Nitro Girls was a famous murder victim. That was all they got out of the Nitro Girls.
No, they got Stacy Keibler.
And they got Stacy Keibler.
All they got out of the Nitro Girls was a famous murder victim.
Hey, I like Stacy Keibler. Stacy Keibler was alright. She played her part very well. Once she got to WWE,
yes,
she played her part very well.
She's got legs and she knows how to use them.
And I spoke to it a little bit last week, but one of the reasons why the appeal of WWF at the time going for the more sexualized content is because, again, look what was also going. At that time, what was going to get the most talked about if you pushed against the grain? You have to think about, in that time frame, Americans, by and large, or in part, were very conservative in what they saw. Very traditionalist. And anything that kind of bucked that, it was frowned upon. Mm-hmm. And so what WWF did brilliantly is they tapped into the one thing that you really didn't want to talk about in that time is sexuality. And it's what got people talking about the product. It's what got people tuning in. So I always find it fascinating when you talk about this time frame, because you almost have to look at what was going on outside of these companies to understand why they did some of the things that they did.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. There were growing concerns of the sexuality in WWF actually being too much, that they had gone overboard. Eric Bischoff at one point was in a business meeting and said that they'll be gone within 6 months. The advertisers are going to pull and there's going to be nothing left for them. So my question here is, do you think they took Did you think they took things too far? Trek.
WWF, the only time I can remember anybody taking anything too far, there are 2 times. The Pillman's Got the Gun, which was actually November 4th, 1996. I just looked it up.
Oh, it was wintertime. Okay.
Yep, so I was a junior in high school.
Nobody cares.
We used to go uphill both ways to school. Please,
and then the second one, I think they took things. Well, 3 of them. The second one, I think they took things too far. Is Katie Vick.
Yes.
Oh yes.
I will agree.
And for that part, they weren't even supposed to do it that way. It was just Vince was telling them to do it serious. It was supposed to be more like Monty Python. And Vince told him, no, you have to play it serious, which is like, I don't think either way would have worked, really.
Yeah, I mean, the Katie Vick one, since you said that, I've been kind of thinking about that. I don't think they went too far with it, and maybe it's because I don't think many things go too far, but it was just more cringe. It was like, why? Why are we spending our time on this? Mm-hmm. Was more my thought on it. Thank you, Dolphin on High, for sharing out the stream. Also, while I'm interjecting here, there are 2 links down below in the description box for Streamlabs. You'll see them at the very first things in the description there. Feel free to help support the stream and what we're doing here. And maybe JP can get his first bottle of Rogaine. You know, we're working on it, guys.
I don't
Also,
want Rogaine, you dumb son of a bitch. I'm good.
There's also the Teespring stores down there. A lot of good stuff. Some new things coming out from the Cold Bone show here recently. The My Balls Yo Chin T-shirt is the new hot item on there. So go check that out as well. And also you've got Heather's book down there in the description as well. Been out a while. Make sure you go check that out. So now that we've done some business there. Sable was the most popular female on the show.
Waste of fucking space. I hated her.
I never really got into her. They were sitting there and they were playing her up. Oh, she was so athletic in this.
Fucking Skype.
Hold on, guys. Skype took a fucking shit on me.
At one point, Ted Turner, this one was kind of funny. I mean, Ted Turner called Vince and said he's getting better ratings because he shows more tit. I thought that was hilarious. Just imagining that old fucker saying that.
Just to let you know, Skype took a shit on me here. I don't know
Well,
why.
shit.
It's alright. I don't know what you said before you were talking there. So.
You were saying how they were playing up Sable's athleticism.
Yeah, that power bomb that she did, that was all Mark Miro.
Exactly.
Right.
And even then, that
she
was
just
god
wasn't
awful.
that entertaining.
Say it again? I'm sorry.
She wasn't that entertaining. Unless you were in the middle of getting ready to jerk off, there was no reason
She
to
couldn't
watch
even
her.
fucking dance.
Her voice annoyed the fuck out of me.
And her gimmick was the... What was her gimmick again?
This is for the girls who want to be
Slut?
me, and for the men who want to see
Who come
me.
to see me. It sounded like she was fucking, I don't know, eating a hot dog. I don't even know how to describe. I hated her. She was I couldn't. I didn't even think she was that good looking, to be honest with you.
I was gonna say TSS, if you did not mention Mae Young's hand along with all the rest of that, I was gonna slap you.
Anyway, go.
Oh
on.
boy. So at this point, ECW starts to succeed nationally.
They're
with
actually,
their product.
Let me. They're the ones that started hardcore and the sexuality. They were doing it first. WWE.
They were doing it before it was fashionable.
Yes,
Yeah, they were doing it way before anybody else.
Yep, WWE took from them and borrowed it, and this is why later on down the line,
ECW meshed with WWE.
WWE, in fact, WWE funded ECW for a little bit. That's down the line.
Had wrestler trades or whatever, not trades, but they would switch talent back and forth to each other's shows.
Well, they did that.
They went hardcore around the same time UFC came out, because I remember hearing about both of them, and everyone was talking like they were the things you watched in privacy. You didn't tell. It was almost like porno or something at the time.
Actually,
You wouldn't tell your friends that you watched it, kind of stuff.
the way Paul Heyman described it was UFC was so real that it was actually illegal in most of the states.
UFC had been out for a while. Because when I first joined the Army in '93, is like their first, like Ken Shamrock and Royce Gracie. So
Yeah,
UFC
it was
had been out
93
for like
when
3 or 4 years, but it wasn't well known. Once Ken Shamrock got to WWE, everybody's like, "Ooh, UFC."
Right. So ECW began to succeed nationally, and you talked about WWE to ECW working together. Later on, WWE started adopting a lot of their gimmicks and the hardcore matches and such. But before we go into that, I had an interesting question, and that is, at the time, did any of you guys ever think that ECW could become a part of the Monday Night War?
Did I ever think? Just the way things were going, they actually did an invasion angle on Raw. a kind of an invasion angle before the invasion angle actually took place, where they did a one night only where they actually had ECW superstars coming in to compete in the middle of the ring. You know what I'm talking about, and that's where the whole funding of the ECW by the WWE started. So yeah,
right.
I mean, yeah.
Okay. Anybody else? Did you feel like ECW could at some point be a part of the Monday Night Wars and be that third show on Monday night?
I legitimately thought. Sorry.
No, go right ahead.
You're good.
I legitimately thought so because I want to go back to a point that I made last week, and it's not saying that WWE, did bad by doing it, but it was during this time that I started thinking that, because remember, I was more of a WCW guy, and I started thinking WWE was just basically copying what everyone else did, because they started doing the hardcore matches like ECW. They started doing the more, true to life gimmicks like the NWO and stuff like that. So I always thought that if the money had been there for Paul, and he was able to do the things that he was able, in fact, he's mentioned it, that if he would have gotten the money from the revenue streams, ECW may have never went out of business.
Mm-hmm.
And I personally think that if things hadn't played out the way they played out, we would be watching ECW.
I mean, I think they probably would have worked with WWE.
They definitely would have. ECW definitely would have worked better with WWE simply because of the fact that WCW was actually stealing their talent.
Yeah.
But like I said numerous times before, if they would have done the invasion angle right, they could have very easily, WWE probably be, hands down, still be doing good content. Because that invasion angle could still be going on today. Doing the whole, you know what I mean? Survivor Series could have been that fucking pay-per-view where WCW versus WWE every fucking year. But
Yeah.
That's
just me.
Okay, Bob. Could ECW have been? Did you foresee them being a part of the Monday Night War at some point? Actually having their show on Monday night.
Growing up, I didn't know ECW at all. Like, nobody at my school ever talked about it. It was always WCW or WWF. There was no ECW. I didn't hear about ECW until, like, when they relaunched back in 2008.
Wow.
So, to be honest with you, no. I didn't see it because nobody fucking talked about it. I had no idea what an ECW was.
All right. Are you still there, Trek?
Yeah, I'm here. I just had to put something away real fast.
Okay. So, what were your thoughts? Did you foresee ECW actually entering the game?
I didn't really know about ECW until when I was on vacation in Texas one time. That I saw an advertiser for late at night, and then when they went to TNN, then I heard that they were a big deal, but I didn't really pay attention to them. I heard smatterings and stuff like that, but I never really thought that they were going to be like anything big. And then when they came in on TNT, I thought they could be a big deal. Or TNT, not TNT.
I was always interested in them and had wanted to see them when they finally got that Friday night slot on TNN. I watched them as much as I could. I mean, Friday nights are sometimes hard to watch stuff when you're that age and, going out and hanging with friends, going bowling or whatever you're doing. But I'd watch them every chance I got, and I liked them. I did not see them becoming a part of the Monday Night War, but I did not see them closing down when they did either. I I fully expected them to withstand the test of time, at least as long as their style of product was wanted by people. And I still think there is a need for a product like that. And there are some out there like that. There's CZW was one.
Yep.
That does a lot of hardcore stuff.
That's where Dean Ambrose came from.
Mm-hmm. Jinx, both of you. You guys are spending too much time together. You're saying each other's shit.
What happens when he knocks me up?
Oh, for fuck's sake. Oh, good. Gross bastard.
So as we said, WWE started emulating a lot of what ECW did. You had Falls Count Anywhere matches that actually went anywhere. I love those things. Whenever I heard a Falls Count Anywhere match back then, I'm like, all right, which lake are we going into this time? What backyard or back alley dumpster are we fighting in? Oh, the fucking snow match. I don't even know if they showed that on there, but do you guys remember the snow match?
Yes.
Where it was fucking blizzard outside and they went and wrestled in the fucking blizzard? Oh my gosh. That shit was good. And we can't have this conversation without mentioning the person that I think is the unsung hero of the Attitude Era and WWE succeeding, and that's Mick Foley.
Yes.
Yeah.
Would you guys agree with that statement?
I would. Oh, go ahead.
Who won that snow match? Because I've never seen that.
Me neither.
Was it Test? And I'm pretty sure it was a hardcore match, not a 24/7 kind of thing, but it was a hardcore match, and it was like Test and Albert or something. I'm sure Trek is typing it in right now, but I feel like Test was in it for some reason.
I wouldn't so much say, I'm kind of going to disagree with you in this effect. I would say that he was the MVP, but he was an integral part of what they were doing. I wouldn't say he was the MVP.
No, not MVP, just unsung hero. That person who really made a huge
unsung hero. I would call him an integral part of what they were doing.
Right, but I don't think he gets the credit. When you sit there and you think about who won the Monday Night War for WWE, you think
I think he gets more credit than you think he does. I think
maybe, but if I say, now obviously having this conversation right now, I hope it doesn't sway the way your brain works on this. But when I say who helped win or who were the top dogs in the Monday Night War for WWE, what are the first faces that come to your mind?
Rock and Stone Cold.
I didn't hear you say Mankind. Did anyone have Mick Foley in their mind when I asked that?
No, but that's why I'm saying. I wouldn't call him an unsung hero. He was an integral part.
Right, but no one really preaches his praises like they do The Rock and Austin.
I think you're underestimating him, though. I think you're missing the point. Not saying that he isn't. I wouldn't call any of them an unsung. I wouldn't call any of them an MVP of anything or an unsung hero of anything. They all had a part in it. So I really don't think. But I guess what I'm saying is yes. You don't say Mankind as much as most people because Mankind came in and became big at the end of the Attitude Era. He was there. He wasn't there. He wasn't there at the beginning. He didn't have all those really big matches with The Rock and Stone Cold. The Undertaker match was what, 97?
Yeah, the Hell in a Cell.
So it was after the Attitude Era had started.
Right, but let's be honest, The Rock didn't get big until closer to 98, but he was on his name came off your lips.
Well, it's because he was a big superstar. Mankind was a big superstar, but how long did he hold the WWF title for? Probably, 2 months at the most?
Right.
Well,
The point I'm making is, and why I call him an unsung hero, is because I don't think people realize that the hardcore style, that I think he really had a large part in bringing in and making it over.
The hardcore stuff, yes.
Yes, and I think the hardcore stuff was a lot more of an integral part of the success of the Monday Night War than a lot of people give it credit for.
I would like to make this point.
Yes.
There is an argument to be had that the Mankind versus Rock match is what was the nail in the coffin for the ratings war.
The
Okay.
empty
I can tell
arena
you that.
match, or the I
That's
Quit
a
match?
given.
No, when Mick Foley first won the title, because it was
Oh.
mentioned on WCW that
Yeah.
Foley was going to
Oh.
win, and so the argument can be made that Foley was the final nail in the coffin when it came to the ratings war.
Well, actually,
Um,
Tony Schiavone would be called the unsung hero for that, because he's the one that fucking said it.
Right.
Well, Bischoff told him to
I
say
get
it.
what you're saying. I'm not discrediting Mankind or Mick Foley here in any way. I want you to understand that. I'm just saying that he wasn't, as far as, I mean, Stone Cold was doing hardcore then at the same time. He was doing chair shots. In fact, I called Steve Austin the unsung hero because he's the one that actually started that fucking Attitude Era.
The hardcore shit that Austin did and the hardcore shit that Foley did are apples and oranges, dude.
Yeah.
Do you not remember the shit that Foley put his body
Stone
through
Cold put
for the
himself
sake of a
through
good show?
fucking hell, dude. Don't tell me he didn't.
I'm not saying he didn't. I'm saying that Mick Foley literally put his life on the line at
I'm not
times.
saying he didn't.
I don't remember too many instances where Austin, aside from, a heart attack from being overworked or something crazy like that, there was not many things that Austin did where you went, man, he could have fucking died doing that. But night after night, you watch Foley and you're going, now the motherfucker's on fire. Now he's going through a thing of a fucking 20-foot thing and falling on his head. And now he's going off the top of a building. Now he's sucking Vince's cock. I mean, that could be just deadly as the rest of them. I don't know.
We could
But
argue about this for 45 fucking more minutes.
Uh,
I'm not discrediting Mankind at all.
you're giving Austin a lot of credit as it comes
Well,
to
I do.
hardcore
Who
matches,
doesn't?
though.
He should get a lot of credit.
How many hardcore titles did Austin have?
Who cares? It wasn't
many
about the
hardcore
hardcore
matches?
title. This
topic is about hardcore.
I understand. Well, Stone Cold was just as hardcore as Mick Foley was.
no.
Okay,
No.
if you say
Alright.
so. I disagree with you.
No, I can't. I
disagree
will
with
say
you.
that. I will say this. I know that a lot of people will say there are too many
Holy
belts
shit.
right now. If there's one belt I wish they would bring back is the hardcore
Fuck
title.
that shit. I don't ever want to see that shit. That
Why?
shit- because it.
Well, we're going to
doesn't
argue on the
serve a
next
purpose.
topic.
Because they won't fucking do it. They won't go hardcore. They have extreme rules today, and there's nothing extreme about this fucking company.
I'm
Nothing.
talking ideal. Ideally,
Ideally, yes,
if they
but
do
won't
it right,
happen.
I would like the hardcore title to come back.
We could sit here and fucking argue about this forever. I disagree with you that fucking Mick Foley, it's all of them. All of them were as hardcore, could be as hardcore as fucking Mick Foley could. I'm not saying that Mick Foley, they just didn't do it because they didn't want them to do it. Vince didn't want them to do it. Mick Foley was the fall guy. I'm pretty sure if fucking Vince told fucking Stone Cold Steve Austin, we're going to have you fall off a 20-foot Hell in a Cell match, he'd probably do it.
He go, let me go and grab my knee braces,
I'm
Vince,
just
because I
saying.
can't walk without him, but I am a hardcore motherfucker.
Because you've heard them all talk on this show. They would do anything for this company. To beat WCW, they would do anything.
I think physically though you can't argue that Foley gave up a lot more than any of those guys did.
Oh my God, we're arguing around in circles. I got you. I heard you the fucking first time.
No, Stone Cold's missing half an ear also. He also has the teeth coming out of his fucking lip. You know, I remember those times with Austin too. That's okay. I remember him.
Yeah, fuck you. It's not what I'm fucking saying.
It's not a show with JP if he doesn't get riled up at least once.
My fucking
Twiggood!
Twiggood!
I got you fucking motherfucker. You're all missing my fucking point. Every single fucking one of you were missing my fucking point.
You had a point?
Yeah, it was at the end of Stone Cold's cock, apparently.
Oh.
Whatever. Moving on.
Well, the next topic I had is not going to help this scenario at all. But at this point, the hardcore title had evolved into more of a 24/7 rule. And you had Crash Holly, you had the matches in the airport, the kids' playhouse, this and that. I loved it. I thought it was great. The fact that any given segment could happen anywhere, and there could be a fucking match pop up in someone's fucking hotel room. In the fucking, what was it, in Japan, a fucking mop was the hardcore champion. In WWE, a fucking hoe was the champion. I thought it was great. Did anyone take it seriously? No, because Crash Holly was the most successful hardcore champion of all time. I would say that's probably not arguable, right? Does anyone disagree with that? That Crash Holly was the most successful hardcore champion?
Most successful, yes, I would agree with you.
And got the most over for it.
I'm going to say Bob Holly. Hardcore Bob Holly was more successful.
As the hardcore champion,
yes.
As a part of that division.
Yep.
Obviously, he got world title matches and Crash didn't later on, but
and it has nothing.
Crash got matches with a coffin.
It has nothing to do with it. It has nothing to do with him getting world title matches.
But anyways, so okay, it's arguable that Crash Holly was the most successful hardcore champion.
Mm-hmm.
And the fucking derailment just lost me my point. But my point is that I loved it, and the point was that no one took it seriously because Crash Holly was arguably the most successful person. It was never taken seriously, but it was good entertainment. I loved it, and I was one of the few people that was disappointed to see it go.
Yeah, I was.
What are you guys' thoughts on that?
I was the same way.
I'm going to say this. I enjoyed it for the time that they had it, but once they took it away, there was no more there was no more need for it.
I guess in a company, in a business where things get taken to the point where they're ran in the ground, this particular thing, if it got cut at the right time, then I hadn't felt it yet. But anything else that this company or any other wrestling company has ever done is run something in the ground until the fans start booing, and then they get rid of it. Mm-hmm. Why couldn't we have gotten that with one of the things that I enjoyed the most about the Attitude Era?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I don't know. Good question.
And you know what? Fami does make a great point. Maven was the greatest hardcore champion of all time. Wouldn't you agree, JP?
No.
Why not? He eliminated The Undertaker from the fucking Royal Rumble. How is he not one mean motherfucker? Now you're taking credit away from Maven.
Well, Maven
this is
Maven was
fucking Maven.
Maven was a one-hit wonder. They thought he was gonna be over, and he sucked.
I thought he said Raven, not Maven.
No, Dolphin said Raven was who held. Dolphin asked who held the hardcore championship the most. Raven. So
Crash did. It was Crash.
He lost it the most too.
It was Crash. It wasn't Raven.
Well, whatever, but hardcore. Who lost it the most? Crash. Or who won it the most? Crash. That means he lost it the most.
He held on to it the longest, actually.
But he was also involved in more title matches.
Yeah, if you're gonna base it off that. See, that's
If you're gonna base it off of that, then you know what? Dean Ambrose should be the face of the company because he's been involved in more title matches than anybody else. Than Roman Reigns. Then Seth Rollins.
But that's what's fucked up about the company right now, and we won't get into that.
Well, I'm going to.
I want my hardcore title. I want my 24/7 rule back.
I'm right there with you, Drew. I want this title to come back. I want the 24/7 rule. It was good entertainment. It made We want to talk about something that'd be good for the product nowadays. Bring that back. Let them go like the 24/7 rule. Make it to where anybody can be champion. And dude, that is freaking entertainment gold right there.
Okay.
You know who we haven't heard during this whole debate? We have not heard from Bobbitt ever since JP made some ludicrous statement about Stone Cold being a hardcore motherfucker. We have not heard from Bobbitt. Mr. Bobbitt, do you have any feedback here?
I agree with y'all. Bring back the fucking hardcore title with 24/7 rule. That shit was fucking hilarious and awesome.
Who was more hardcore, Mick Foley or Stone? Who was more hardcore, Mick Foley or Stone Cold Steve Austin?
Oh god, Foley for sure.
Okay, I was just making sure.
Fucking Chris.
So,
You guys are dumb.
Now let me talk to you about this. If you want to bring back that 24/7 rule, you want to bring back all the hardcore rules. What is one of the biggest complaints of the superstars today? And I'm not talking about promo
Concussions.
skills. I'm not talking about fucking in-ring ability. I'm talking about injuries.
concussions, yeah. But they have hardcore matches now. Why can't they just do them the
When was the
PG?
last time they did a hardcore match, Drew?
Drew, compare the
You
hardcore
tell me.
compare the hardcore matches today of the ones that we had of yesteryear.
Right, but here's my point. With the 24/7 rule, it doesn't have to be PG-13. All it has to do is be funny as shit. They were throwing fucking balls in a ball pit at each other. There was nothing PG-13 about that.
Yes, but then you got the ones that actually took the match seriously and ended up getting hurt, like Mick Foley.
That wasn't a 24/7 rule match.
It didn't matter. It was still for the hardcore title.
Right, well, I'm saying bring it back as the 24/7 rule. And really, you could probably, these kids that they're aiming toward right now would probably get into that, and they can make it very PG. You don't I mean, there don't even have to be chairs or anything. It could just be sneaking around corners and, sticking a broomstick out so they trip over it, and then, whatever. If they want to be PG, do the 24/7 rule.
And then there's also another problem. Women are not allowed to fight the men.
And the women don't have to be a part of it. The women can have their own division of it if it goes over.
Right.
So then you're changing the entire outlook of the entire hardcore title.
Yeah.
You're changing the entire history of it right there. The entire rules behind the 24/7 rule was anybody was allowed to go for it. Anybody. Which is why you had a mop as the championship holder for a while.
Yeah, but, WWE changes a lot of the rules along the way. What would be the difference to do it again with this one?
Plus, they have too many fucking titles as it is anymore, so...
Well,
Right,
if that's the
and I
case,
would
then
agree
there's
with
really
that.
no need for the cruiserweights.
I totally agree with you.
We've said
I agree with the oversaturation of championships, but, if they're not worried about how many championships there are, and they want to have a little kiddie sideshow, fucking do the 24/7 rule. But anyways, we're kind of getting off the whole topic here, but I think it's been good talk, even though JP's making shit points. It's been a great talk. But,
Yes, I remember you, and you're spelling my name wrong. Do you know what happens
uh-oh.
when you spell my name wrong? Do you know what happens when you come into the chat to a wrestling memory show and you ask if I remember you and misspell the most iconic name out there today?
Iconic
Do
my
you
ass.
know what happens? Shut the fuck up, JP. You just got put in timeout.
Oh, I missed that.
Yeah, Johnny, You're about as iconic as Stone Cold Steve Austin was in the hardcore division, all right?
Why do you keep doing that? Why do you keep saying that? Did you miss my entire fucking point? Anyone? You know what? I'll end the fucking stream. Listen to what I have to fucking say.
Over this.
Listen to what I have to fucking say. What I'm trying to tell you is, Stone Cold, if he wanted to be, could be as hardcore as Mick Foley wanted to be. In fact, he was in ECW.
Okay.
That's why his injuries, that's why he couldn't do it anymore. If he could have, he would have. That's what I'm trying to tell you.
And the part that has me confused about all that is the topic was Mick Foley and his hardcore abilities and him bringing hardcore into the WWE is what made him, maybe I'm using the wrong phrase, but an unsung hero of making the WWE over WCW in the ratings, that he played a large role in that. What Steve Austin did in the past is all fine and dandy, but it doesn't... He wasn't the one. He wasn't Mick Foley at the time Mick Foley was Mick Foley. Joe Montana. You could call him, the greatest quarterback of all time, but the Chiefs aren't going to agree with you.
I don't think he is the greatest quarterback of all time, but that's neither here nor there.
No. The point I'm making is he did great things for the 49ers. But
I know the point you're trying to make. What I'm saying is that they all had a part in making WWE they all put an end to WCW. Every single one of them had a part. You can't just say that Mick Foley was an unsung hero. Hardcore, I could argue fucking Al Snow was as hardcore as fucking Mick Foley was. You know what I mean?
Let me try to take a stab at this. Okay, so what I think JP is trying to say is that he is already a very big part of what led to success on equal footing with the others.
Yes.
What we are trying to say is that we kind of feel that Mick Foley isn't given enough credit.
And that's where I disagree with you. I think he gets credit, but people don't see that he's getting the credit. I give him as much credit as Stone Cold and The Rock. It's just the way you asked that question was, when you think of Attitude Era, who do you think of? Everybody's going to say the exact same thing I'm going to say. That doesn't discredit Mick Foley from being a part of that.
No, but it could make him an unsung hero. It could make him because to be a sung hero, you have to be the one in that list of names. If you're left out of that list of names, but you were a big part of making something happen, that's what makes you an unsung hero.
But you could ask people this instead of saying, who is an unsung hero of the Attitude Era? Besides Stone Cold and The Rock, I guarantee it. My first answer would be Mick Foley.
Right. Well. Okay. But the thing is,
I disagree.
The thing is what we're trying to say is that it should be at the point where you don't have to ask that question and phrase it that way. He should be, when you think Attitude Era, you think Stone Cold, The Rock, Mick Foley.
Yeah.
Okay.
You can also think
here's
Shawn
the
Michaels,
thing.
too.
Is when Drew asked you the question, you said Stone Cold and The Rock. Mick Foley wasn't even mentioned. That's the point we're trying to make, is that Mick Foley needs to be almost an automatic response.
Okay, fine. You're right, I'm wrong. I think I'm explaining it. I'm done explaining myself. Whatever. Moving on. I really am.
Well,
I'm getting a headache.
To continue the hardcore topic, WCW tried their hand at hardcore, and it wasn't as good. You had Viagra on a pole matches, Judy Bagwell on a forklift match, and yeah, they they took their best stab at it, and I mean, the only reason those two matches are even memorable is because of how asinine they were, how stupid of an idea they were. So, unless you guys have something to say on that, I'm moving on to the next topic.
No, it sucked.
WCW did a horrible job at even trying. Smiley was their center of attention for that crap. Norman Smiley walking out in football pads and shit for a hardcore title match.
Still better than what Stone Cold did. No, I'm kidding.
I knew it! I fucking knew it was coming! I fucking knew it was coming!
We have to give JP credit here. Him saying that about Stone Cold, you got to remember, he said Dale Earnhardt was a wrestler.
Who did?
JP did.
Oh, really? How many championships was he a hardcore motherfucker too?
I'm gonna go eat my food while he screams at you people.
Apparently, Earnhardt was a 7-time WWE champion, according to JP.
Anyways, we're running behind now for obvious reasons. So next, the WWE takes the hardcore style a step further, and in comes the TLC matches. The Edge and Christian, Hardys, Dudley's TLC matches. Booker T even said they were too strong and too hungry to keep up with, as far as from the WCW perspective. Everyone wanted it in WWE more, and I think this was about the time that a lot of people in WCW were more worried about their wallets and less worried about the product they were putting out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
D-Generation X came in at this time. The Rock now came in at this time. I kind of mentioned this earlier when we were kind of messing around and whatnot, but The Rock came in a little later than people like Stone Cold, Mick, Triple H, even Kane and Undertaker, of course. But he still became more notable. He even came in probably a year and a half. The Rock character came in probably 2 years into the Attitude Era, but it's still, as JP said, on that short list of people who made the difference.
He was there. His character, his gimmick changed. His character per se never changed.
He came out as a retard wearing blue the first time.
Listen to me. He shortened his name. They always called him Rocky Maivia. Everybody forgets that. Everybody kept calling him. I mean, JR always called him Rocky Maivia. But then he dubbed him The Rock. If anybody's an unsung hero of the Attitude Era, it's JR. He's the one that fucking put all of these guys the fuck over with his fucking
he could be considered one of them.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
I would say there's a good list of unsung heroes, and maybe we do a separate show on unsung heroes of the Attitude Era at some point. And we could probably do a whole show on that.
And spend another 30 minutes on the Mick Foley topic.
Yeah. I'll tell you, people were loving it. In the chat, I was watching. But so as DX is born, The Rock is born, the NWO is starting to grow stale. No one really knew where to go with it. There was no end game in mind for the NWO. They just knew that the NWO were going to be a bunch of badasses, and people liked it. And so they just kept doing it. Doing it until they finally just ran it in the ground because they didn't know what they were doing.
Yep.
The other one I missed was Mr. McMahon was born.
Yes.
And in comes the Bret Screwed Bret. McMahon becoming the perfect villain character for the anti-hero roster. Mm-hmm. Most specifically, Stone Cold Steve Austin. Hardcore Steve Austin.
Come on, man.
It's getting old now.
No shit. Giving me a fucking headache. Move on from it.
So, Austin and McMahon, that feud, another thing we could probably do a whole show on.
Yes. In fact, there is a whole show on. I think there's a whole episode on it.
Yeah, there might be. I haven't really looked that far.
There's actually a rivalry special on the WWE Network talking about it.
I remember that.
Yeah,
I
there's
just
a
didn't
Monday
know if they
Night War
included
all
one.
about Stone Cold Steve Austin, and it's all about him and McMahon. Most of it is about him and McMahon. Anyway.
So, yeah, Austin and McMahon. I still die laughing at the bread or the gosh. What the fuck?
The bedpan.
The bedpan. I still die laughing at the bedpan. I can't say it, but I can laugh at it. And on April 13th, 1998, the Raw main event was Austin versus McMahon, first time ever. And this was the first time that WWE won the ratings in almost 2 years. Did you guys realize that before watching this?
No, not at the time. No, not at the time. No. I thought it was a very I mean, it was a cool moment. I mean, you know, an employee got to take on his boss. I mean, how many of us would want to go in and sit there punch our boss in the dick right now?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, basically, that story was basically Stone Cold living the dream of getting to beat up your boss.
The fans were living vicariously through Stone Cold Steve Austin because everybody has that certain boss that is a complete cock and they want to fucking stun his ass or hit him over the head with a fucking chair or just beat the shit out of their boss. So
kind of like I want to do with JP right now. No, I'm just kidding.
Shut up, fucker. Alright, motherfucker. Anyway. But yeah,
well,
I agree with Johnny. It's pretty much what it was.
Russo, he wrote the show every week with "You can't top this" attitude, he encouraged his writers to do the same thing, write stories that you don't think anyone else can top. And I think I honestly believe to an extent WCW did the same thing, but they went too far too fast, and they ran out of things to do. I remember thinking this in the Attitude Era. I remember thinking that, I think it was when Road Warrior Hawk went off the top of the Titantron. Mm-hmm. My thought then, and I also, or maybe it was when Shane McMahon went off like the edge of it, and I'm like, okay, now they've thrown people off the top of the building. What else can they do? There's nowhere else. What, are you going to go on top of the Empire State Building and chuck someone off of it? I mean, you can only go so far. And I think it was Dusty Rhodes who said on the show, this is pretty much the same thing. He's like, you burn people, you've blown them up, you've thrown off the top of shit, you've done all these things. Eventually you're going to run out of stuff. And I think I saw the end of the Attitude Era before many people did, because I started realizing that really early on. Like, I'm still entertained, I'm still having a blast, but what are they going to do next? And they didn't do a whole lot more next.
Nope.
As far as over-the-top shit.
Yep.
Well, to go with your point, a lot of these stories in WWF at the time took almost a year to come to fruition. The Stone Cold versus McMahon is a good example. It went on for a very long time.
Year and a half.
Oh, yeah.
The problem, and I'm going to make a comparison why DX worked and NWO inevitably didn't. Because, number one, DX, I think, handled the faction right. They kept their numbers small, which made them believable as sometimes the underdogs. And you almost got invested in their success or their demise. With the NWO, the thing with the NWO, it got too big too fast. And there was nothing that could realistically combat the NWO.
Yep.
Except it imploding it on itself. And that's where it failed. I think if they had a faction or a group come in, they would have kept the numbers small in the NWO, slowly build to maybe the numbers that DX had, and then have a equal faction come in to take them out, or a group to take them out, you would have seen a much different scenario. But I think during that time, WCW was doing what WWE is doing today. This fast-paced, instant gratification kind of storytelling.
Yep. I mean, I'll go one step further, just real quick, and I was gonna save it for the end of the show, but what you've seen in the Attitude Era kind of is ruining what's going on today, because that's what people want to fucking see. What are you going to do to top what you did last week? Well, you're not going to. You're not going to fucking see it. So what they did, the Attitude Era, in a sense, is ruining the WWE today. If they go back to the Ruthless Aggression Era, if they would have never have gone away from the Ruthless Aggression Era, or the TV-14 era, or whatever the fuck it's called, they would still be successful today.
And I never said I didn't like DX. Where did I say that?
One thing I gotta say, you were talking about the long drawn-out storylines that helped WWE succeed, because they didn't go for the gusto right away.
Yep.
There is one time in the last 10 years that they've done that, and it worked really well.
Daniel Bryan. And had the obvious unfortunate things not happened, it probably could have gone on to be even bigger, but it did,
Uh-oh.
Oh, yeah. Aaron. Do you know what happens when you say I don't like DX and you misspell my name again?
For the 4th time, by the way.
Do you want to know for the 4th time? Do you want to know what happens to people like you that can't get their fucking foot out of their ass or their fingers out of their ass to type my name properly? Do you want to know what happens?
I like the mouse. He's like,
you just got put in timeout again!
oh man. Well, anyways, to wrap things up, there was just a couple little things I wanted to mention. The WWE had the opportunity, with the more money coming in, to start spending more money. At the same time, Ted Turner cut off the blank checks. Mm-hmm. So now we're starting to get to this point where it's anybody's ball game. The playing field has evened up. And our next episode, since we were talking about it a minute ago, is part 4, and it's a new degeneration. So I'll give you one guess as to what that's going to be about, gentlemen and lady.
Roman Reigns?
Yeah.
So,
Just kidding.
Dale Earnhardt?
Dale Earnhardt. Fuck you, Bobbitt, you cunt.
and because it was mentioned, episode 8 is about Hardcore Steve Austin. So we'll be there in about a month. But is there any last thoughts on this episode here?
Nope. I mean, it gave you the gist of what the Attitude Era was all about. It was about sexuality. Mostly, that's where everybody's like, ooh, I need to watch WWE. Sexuality, sex sells, people. And they say that. I think they said it in there. Sex sells. So, people are jumping over to see what was going on WWE. Ultimately, you are right, Johnny, but the whole thing started when the sex sells. When they started doing fucking bra and panty matches and all that shit. People started going over to WWE, and then, yeah. But it's a good episode. I mean, it gave you the sense of the first 3 episodes are kind of an introduction, kind of giving you a backstory. Now you're going to start getting into what caused. Well, Degeneration X actually is just that they're talking about Degeneration X. So.
Okay, Bobbit, any last thoughts on this most recent episode we've watched?
Oh, it was a pretty good episode, and yeah, what JP said, 6 cells.
Trek? And he is frozen in time. Johnny?
I don't really have any much more to add, but I did make a promise that one more timeout would happen. So I'm going to leave it up to the chat to press 1 if you want to be put in the timeout section. And I'll give everybody a chance, and then I'll pick my person who gets put in timeout.
All right, well, give us your review on this most recent episode then while we wait.
Again, it goes back to the deal that I said. You know, they had to go somewhere. Because at that time in the beginning inning, WCW was kicking their ass in the ratings. And like I said, this whole war, I'll say it once, I'll say it again. To me, this is one of the best times. I can't put you in timeout. You're wrong.
I was just gonna tell them.
It's one of the best times of television. I do agree with JP that it did ruin it, inevitably, for what we see now, because you can't top it. But I do agree with that. And with that, Dolphin on high!
Oh no.
Do you want to know what happens when you fall into the trap of the Sinister One? Do you want to know what happens when you press 1 in the chat to get yourself on the timeout list? It's Dolphin on high! You just got put in timeout!
Fuck is going on? What the fuck is that noise?
I think it's Trek.
What is he doing? Jerking off with sandpaper again?
Oh, sorry, I did just get into the chat.
Oh, for fuck's sake. Get a fucking room.
No, I didn't do
Sarah-
anything. It wasn't me.
Sarah, do you know what happens when you show up at the end of the show? No, I'm kidding. Oh, man. So anyways, that's everyone's last words. You know, I thought it was a good show. I like how there was a little more disagreement and a lot more debate on things tonight, and we're still ending the show a little bit earlier, at least until JP goes into a 15-minute goodbye session, but I think he's already said his piece, so I think we'll be okay there. But I'd like to thank everyone for showing up. I always hate ending the stream when we're peaking in viewership. But, you know, that's our time. Hey, but I'll tell you what you guys can do, all 20 of you, 19 of you, is stick around, because in 10 minutes this channel is going to be right back up and running for Warcraft and Rage. So make sure you come check that out. I won't be able to be there, but I'm sure there'll be a lot more debates going on. So
Oh yeah,
go
there
check
will
that
be.
out.
Yes.
And we'll see you guys next week, 6:30 Central Time on the Derailed Gatekeeper channel. We'll be back over there, barring a last-minute change in plans. So we'll see you then. Peace out, guys. Cheers.
Bye, everybody.
Yep, just stay here.
Bye, everybody.
Just stay on Heather's channel, because she'll be right back. I guarantee it. Talk to you guys later.